Good morning, everyone. Again, I'm a little short on coffee, so there will be a copious amount of drinking coffee during this presentation. However, as I said, I'm going to try to start off by showing you a little bit about why AirTight needs to do what AirTight does. I'm going to go through about 372 slides this morning because I love slide decks. I actually joined part of the marketing department. None of these statements are true. And we will continue with something a little more interesting for y'all. So, I've been doing Wi-Fi for the last 15 years or so. I get bored really easily. The rest of this stuff on the slide is really just a matter of this last bit far too easily entertained. I spend a lot of my free time doing anything that I find entertaining, and hopefully you'll find some of this entertaining as we go through. Wi-Fi is an exception to the generally accepted rules of technology. When you had a network at your home long ago, you had nice 10 base T hub, something like that. Well, the businesses were all running 10100 switches or some kind of nice internet connection. You had garbage dial-up. The problem is all of these technologies take time to develop, time to figure out how they work, time to use, and then they make it to the consumer market. Right, except for Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi started in the consumer market, and it was built for ease of use and not necessarily considering a lot of the security. So your things like your firewalls, your IDSs, and they're all focused on a network security idea that doesn't really give you access to random points in the network, whereas Wi-Fi gives you access to random points in the network. So we're going to have a little bit of fun talking about this stuff. We're going to cover things like clients connected to the coffee shop, clients connected to the neighbor's guest network. I don't own a van like that, so drive a regular car. There's a lot more antennas on mine, but okay. Sometimes you learn these lessons the hard way. There's a lot of problems with Wi-Fi security, and you may or may not have heard that occasionally companies get breached using things like this. I don't want to harp on that too much because I'm pretty sure everybody knows. I have two kinds of customers. The kind that have Wi-Fi and wish to protect themselves, and the kind that think that they have no Wi-Fi that are wrong. Every single place, unless you're going to remove every device from every person, no cell phones, no tablets, going to take the Wi-Fi out of the laptops. Everything's built with Wi-Fi. It is meant to have Wi-Fi, and so even in a no Wi-Fi environment, you're going to find thousands, typically, of Wi-Fi devices in the airspace. So even if you don't offer Wi-Fi, don't wish to offer Wi-Fi, the security aspect is still a really big problem. Okay? This is what my marketing department thinks that I have etched into my car's window. You can see all the different exploits and all the different scary things going through as I drive through New York. And I don't actually have a cool heads-up display like that, but maybe one of you would like to sponsor Google Glass projects or something like that. We'll save that for after. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about some different wireless hacking techniques, planting rogue access points, Wi-Fi phishing, denial of service attacks, and then we'll move on to some very exciting demos. Well, I think they're exciting. Maybe you'll agree. Okay. AirTight recognizes 10 different types of threats as a general whole. Okay. Your number one is rogue access points. That would be devices that are on your wire that aren't part of your network security policy. You didn't intend to have them, they're just there. Misconfigured access points are your own devices, something that might be not matching the security policy for some reason. Client disassociation is going to be what your client devices are doing. The Wi-Fi laptops, tablets, cell phones, things like that. Unauthorized association is mostly handled by the access points. Ad hoc connections. Who here seen free public Wi-Fi? Maybe just a few of you have come across that. Computer-to-computer networks that really have no place in the business world, and quite frankly, everybody's got a cell phone with a hotspot in their pocket, so there's not a lot of reason to be using things like that. Honeypot access points are what we're going to have a little bit of fun with today. That is evil twin devices, things that phish clients in, try to get them to connect to your network so that you can have a little bit of fun with them. AP MAC spoofing. Wi-Fi is a layer 2 technology. The layer 2 address is a MAC address, so obviously to hide your identity, you're going to try to do MAC spoofing. This particular hotel is kind enough to offer 3 hours of free internet connection to every new guest. So every 3 hours I get a new MAC address and I'm a new guest and I get free internet all day. And I could plug in my room number, but that takes time. Denial of service attacks. Obviously, if you can't beat them, destroy them, because if I can't break in and use it, nobody should. So you can do things that are really awful, and we'll talk about that. Web key cracking, WPA key cracking. Some of these active attacks can be seen and blocked. But the important thing to remember really is that some of these actually apply to fully no Wi-Fi environments. If you don't actually install Wi-Fi in your environment, you still have to worry about somebody else doing it for you. Your clients connecting to random things, honeypot access points, things like that are always going to be a threat. Okay? Rogue access points. Rogue access points are a very simple thing to find when you're looking for one of these lovely giant Linksys boxes or something like that. But then you've got your nice little battery-powered devices. These ones are about $9 on Amazon. You just plug it into a USB port, power it up, plug it straight into the network, drop it behind your workstation. Real convenient, real easy, real stealthy. Nice devices. My other personal favorite is the wall jack access point, where you can just replace one of the wall jacks that happen to have PoE with a nice little access point. The general idea is that this provides a nice bypass for the filters, for the firewalls, jumps you right onto the network in a place that you weren't expected to be on the network. So you've got all kinds of different options for doing this stuff. Dropping in access points is a hidden attacker. But I was having a really lovely conversation just yesterday. Realistically, how often do you think that happens? I've only been with AirTight for the last 8 years. I've only been doing Wi-Fi for the last 15. I think Wi-Fi's been around for at least 16, so I haven't been around everywhere. But the problem is hackers don't break into buildings and plant rogue access points for the most part. Apparently it's happened at least once for somebody in this room, but it realistically just doesn't happen very often. What happens is the employees in the company plant the rogue access points. Why don't hackers break into your building and plant rogue AVs? Because there are better ways that don't involve me getting caught and going to jail. You might not notice I'm very tall for a Sicilian, I'm very short for regular human beings, and I wouldn't do well in jail. So I like to stay on this side of the bars, and breaking into a building just to climb up into the ceiling with a ladder, plant a rogue access point, just kind of never been high on my to-do list for whatever reason. So you want to find these rogue access points. So you do a wireless site survey, scan, you walk in, and you see, okay, so okay, Google Wi-Fi secure. I don't work at Google, so that's probably my neighbor. Meeting room, that seems legit. Corp, okay. Linksys G, I don't know what that is. Realistically, what do you know about any of these devices that you can see in the airspace? You know the name, you know the security, that's it. What percentage of employees installing a rogue access point on your network do you think you're going to call it rogue access point on your network? Probably kind of low, which means that in reality you have no idea if any of these devices are on your network. I can plant a rogue access point in the middle of the conference room table. I can set it right next to my cell phone with a hotspot on. They're going to have the same signal strength. One of them is a dire threat to your security. The other one makes literally no difference to your security at all. If I have my hotspot in the middle of your office conference table, I'm not affecting your network security, right? But if I plug one of my access points in, that's going to make a very big difference. But when you're looking at a wireless scanner, you really can't tell the difference. Okay? Wi-Fi phishing. At our last little walkthrough, we did a nice study through a bunch of airports, and we found that 56% of clients were probing for what we call vulnerable SSID. That is a default SSID, an unencrypted access point, something we could use to convince them to connect to us. 34% of them were highly insecure. 13% were looking for free public Wi-Fi. So if I walk into a room with 100 people, I can get 13 of them to connect to me. And the best part about being red team instead of blue team is you don't have to win every time, you only have to win once. If I can get one employee to connect to me, I can get their information, I can use that to jump on the network, and it's all downhill from there. Well, I mean, not for the red team side. For the red team side, it's all uphill from there, but you know, the customers normally get kind of upset from that point. Ad hoc connections, those computer-to-computer connections, are a really great thing. I used to actually think that this wasn't that big of a deal because, you know, I mean, when was that really going to happen in reality? I had a presentation, and they had a projector that you had to connect to an ad hoc network. I'm like, okay, you know, it's not that big a deal. I'll go ahead, I'll do it, I'll download some crappy software. I install it, and I give my presentation. I go back to the airport thinking it was all good. I fire up my laptop because I messed up my plane reservations, and I have to fix it. I fire up my laptop, and I immediately connect it to projector. That doesn't look right. So I passed out a DHCP address and saw who else was on the network, and it turns out there was a few of us. So it is realistically a very bad thing to connect to ad hoc networks. Ad hoc networks work by you connecting directly to somebody else. For a regular access point-based network, you send out a probe request, the access point sends a probe response, and then you connect to the access point. Ad hoc doesn't work that way. The way ad hoc works is you actually send out a beacon saying, I am this network. Other people then see that and say, oh, I'm that network too, and you connect to each other. Which means that when you first connect to free public Wi-Fi, when you then leave that area and you turn on your laptop again, it starts looking for all the access points you've connected to, and it also sends out a beacon saying, oh, I'm free public Wi-Fi. And then the next poor sap connects to you. It's essentially a viral spread sheerly based on human stupidity. You click on it, you make yourself a carrier, and then you spread it to the next poor bastard. Okay?
There's an implied trust with
There is an implied trust with it, and unfortunately, the standard hasn't been updated for ad hoc since B. So in 802.11b, there was all of WEP. There's not even really any standards for doing WPA on ad hoc networks. So that implied trust is literally all you get. It's, well, I'm sure it's legit. Okay? Spoofed hotspots. Okay? So hotel's got a nice pool. Here's me sitting out by the pool. I set up a nice little access point. Maybe present a login page. Username and password. Offer 3 hours of free internet connection to new users. Maybe a username and password. Maybe when you log in with your username and password, you happen to have no more credit. So you need to plug in your credit card number. Something like that. I mean, obviously I would never do this, but if I were to, it would be really easy. You just connect to the splash page yourself. File, save as. Now I can use that splash page myself and just go ahead and dump the information and submit it to it into a text file for myself. Right? So when you log into a Wi-Fi network and you have to log in with a username and password, you have to log in with a credit card number, what is really showing you that you're on the right network? The SSID? How many of you have access points at home? How many of you know how to change your own SSID? What prevents you from setting Starbucks as your SSID? Now, there's totally something in there, right? I mean, you can't just set Starbucks for your SSID. Oh, bugger. So it's bad, right? Oh wait, the splash page, it's encrypted. It's got SSL, protects your credit card numbers. Can you get an SSL certificate? So if I were to go to like RSA and say I'd like an SSL certificate for evilhackerdomain.com, which I would definitely pick that name. Evilhackerdomain.com, I've got a valid SSL certificate. I redirect you to my splash page on evilhackerdomain.com. I present to you my completely valid certificate. Well, I wouldn't want your credit card to be stolen. I mean, not while I'm trying to steal it, because then that guy might use it and then get caught, and then I wouldn't be able to use it as long, and that would just be, I don't do any of this. Look, my laptop's not even new. Come on. So what does this attack actually look like, right? In the old days, it was called a honeypot. What a honeypot was, you would simply set up an access point or a device in access point mode. You'd give it an SSID of some hotspot that you wanted to spoof. Maybe I'm sitting at Panera Bread, maybe I'm sitting at McDonald's, maybe I'm sitting at Starbucks, and I set up Starbucks for my SSID, and then people connect to me. That's kind of neat, but what percentage of people do you think actually connect to that network? I mean, not a lot, a couple, but not a lot, and hacking everybody is way cooler than hacking a few people, so we move up a little bit to an attack called Hotspotter. What Hotspotter does is it sniffs and sees 13 different SSIDs, it picks one, and it brings up the most requested candidate so that the most people in the airspace connect to you. Well, I mean, that's 13 pre-programmed, and it was written quite some time ago, so most of it's rather invalid anymore. And it's still just a few people. It's not going to be a lot. It's going to be a few more, but not enough. Right? We really want to get as many targets as possible because, you know, otherwise you might not hit somebody, so you got to try harder. Karma came out on 2004, 2005 kind of time frame. What Karma is a modified Wi-Fi driver that goes through, and all it does is it looks to see what Wi-Fi network you are probing for, and it sends out the appropriate probe response. So no matter what network you're looking for, I respond to you, and you connect to me. That is a very high chance of success because pretty much everybody's looking for one access point or another. So now I can get a very high percentage of the clients to connect to me, and we can have a little fun. Those of you that don't want to be part of that part of the demo might want to start thinking of turning off your Wi-Fi cards. So what do we see when we're looking at this kind of thing, right? This is a view, part of AeroDump, which is a Wi-Fi sniffer showing the client devices, and each one of them is probing for multiple different networks all of the time. And what we're going to do is we're simply going to respond and say, oh yeah, that's me. Oh, you're looking for Concourse? Yeah, I can be Concourse. Oh, Laces? Yeah, I'm Laces. MacBook Pro? Totally, bro. I am MacBook Pro. Right? Each user is going to probe out looking for something. I'm going to respond to them, and they're going to think that that's what they're connected to. Okay? The added benefit is that some devices don't do any real authentication on the access points at all. So say you have maybe an iOS device, they were very popular yesterday. iOS devices store the login information for a secured access point, but they don't validate it when they see the access point. That sounds kind of weird, so I'm going to slow this down a little bit. What happens is if you store secure network, and then it sees an unencrypted access point called secure network, it will go through and actually connect. Okay? Windows had this problem too in about 2004, but they managed to fix it because they care about security. iOS devices, for whatever reason, still will connect to an unencrypted access point as long as the SSID matches. I found that out at a DoD convention, which was kind of an inopportune time to figure that out, but I thought it was funny. Most of the attendees didn't find it as funny as I did. But. So Judicious Karma is the program that implements this attack originally. And all it does, it fires up an access point, DHCP server, and then a fake DNS server. So you're going to connect to me because I respond to the right probe request. I'll give you an IP address, and then I'll respond with DNS that points you to whatever I feel like pointing you to. Maybe I could just have a little fun and point Microsoft.com to kernel.org, or maybe I could do something malicious, like run a fake web server with exploits on it, or run an FTP server that collects usernames and passwords, or a POP3 server, or an SMTP server. I could even be kind enough to provide you full internet access, depending on, it's really expensive for me to do that in this country, but back home it's a little cheaper for me. But again, sometimes the clients are sticky. And even if I have a nice high signal strength, they don't connect to me because maybe they connect to something else in the airspace. So what do we do then? Denial of service attacks. Okay? The device that I'm using for my demo, which I'll explain a little bit in detail later, is called a Wi-Fi Pineapple. This device actually has 2 Wi-Fi cards in it, specifically one to run the Karma attack and one to run the denial of service attack to make sure you are the only serviceable access point in the airspace. Not that I would be doing that right now. No. So if you're connected to Wi-Fi right now, again, I'm very politely cautioning you. AirJack was the first set of tools to implement this. This was a custom set of drivers for an older device. And then it could run a de-authenticate attack. It was able to spoof messages that would essentially knock you off of the access point by telling you your authentication is no longer valid. But it was one Wi-Fi card and it was custom drivers. You had to compile stuff yourself, and most people just don't have that kind of spare time. Void 11 came out not too long after that, and it was an actual regular Wi-Fi driver that happened to be capable of what's called master mode, which is the access point mode. Obviously, access points need to be able to send de-authenticate messages, but there were a couple little issues with the way that was implemented, so it allowed us to just kind of spoof out all the de-authenticates we wanted, so we could send all kinds of different disassociated de-authenticate messages as part of normal access point operation, just with the raw MAC addresses dropped in there. It can also run authentication and association attacks. How many access points do you think can handle a few dozen clients connecting to them at once? Not for very long, right? MDK2, MDK3 came out later using raw packet transmission. Newer Wi-Fi cards have a lot less firmware on them. A lot more is handled by the host computer, which means that they will pretty much do whatever you tell them to do. So if I say send out 1,000 de-authenticate messages a second, it will spit out 1,000 de-authenticate messages a second and knock everybody off of every AP. It also does some beacon flooding, so I can make thousands of access points inside of a few seconds. Probing mode, where it's going to go through and try to probe for different SSIDs hundreds, thousands of times a second just to mess with people. And my personal favorite, amok mode, which is where it simply channel hops and de-authenticates every single thing it can find. Kind of funny, but we've kind of gone from custom drivers to regular drivers to complete raw packet transmission, and that might not sound quite easy enough, so these tools all have help built in. You got a nice little help flag and to show you how to run it, and it give you the full set of options. Just run a nice simple command and then it's immediately going to start just killing devices in the airspace. In this case, it's showing 36 packets a second because I was testing this in my test environment where there's not a lot of access points. This can easily do a few thousand packets a second, just killing everything in the airspace, if there's enough things in the airspace to kill. All it's going to do is look for somebody connected, drop them off that AP, move on to the next person. This is included with popular live CDs. You can just download this, run this off of your laptop. No basic skill set required. A lot of internal Wi-Fi cards can handle it, or you can grab some popular USB Wi-Fi cards. This is what's called an alpha Wi-Fi card. These are one of the most popular for the last 10 or so years, and they support all of these tools. They're basically all tested against that as the gold standard. The only problem with this, if you go home to play with this, because I'm obviously telling you it's way too easy, hacker tools don't target very well by nature. They're kind of nasty. So if you run this at your place of business, you're probably going to drop everybody off of every access point in the airspace. You might want to reconsider that. You might not. I mean, I don't know what your sense of humor is. So I've been boring long enough with slides, so we're going to jump into a little bit of demo. Before I start the demo, I want you to know everything up here on this table that you see is for your benefit, because I cannot connect this up to the television very well, and the text is really, really tiny. So I have to kind of show each one of you individually, and the class would take a lot longer to do. All of these attacks run on a cell phone. This is a Nokia N900, what's called a Pwn phone. A group called Pony Express sells these. You can also buy the phone and download the firmware for free, because there's just that kind of nice guys. And you get little icons. You can just click Run Evil AP, Run Deauthenticate Attack, run whatever you want, and it'll just run these attacks for you. I mean, the battery only lasts like 4 or 5 hours, but you know, you can do an awful lot of damage walking around the place in 4 or 5 hours if you're just clicking buttons and it magically hacks people for you. This is an older phone. This came out about 4 or 5 years ago. They actually released just yesterday the 2014 edition of the Pwn phone, which is a nice brand new Nexus 7 Android phone. So now you can walk in and out of places with a cell phone that one would actually not be embarrassed to carry. I mean, geeks that wear Pebble watches might think that this is a cool cell phone still, but a lot of other people simply wouldn't find this as cool of a cell phone. So we're going to run the attack with my laptop against my target system. In this case, my target system is the Walmart Special. I got this the day before one of my demos that I had something to donate to the customer. The original implementation of this attack was actually running off of an iPod 4th generation because I wanted to give the customer 2 pieces of equipment that I never wanted to see again, and I couldn't possibly care less about Apple devices. So this is kind of junky equipment, so it actually runs the test slow enough that I can explain it while we're going through. So the attack we're going to run is called Metasploit, and it's going to be a full attack suite called Car Metasploit. Car Metasploit means we're going to use Karma to catch the clients, and then we're going to use Metasploit to attack the clients. Specifically, what we're going to do is an attack called Would you stop? An attack called Browser Autopwn. Browser Autopwn is a fake web browser that is going to capture the clients as they connect to the access point, perhaps pretending to be a splash page or something like that. It's going to then fingerprint the browser that is connecting. It's going to say, okay, you are Windows XP, you are running Microsoft Internet Explorer, whatever version, you've got this version of Java installed, you have this version of Flash installed, you have Adobe PDF installed, all your browser plugins, everything that as a browser-based attack I would have access to is going to be sent by the browser to the Metasploit. Then we're going to pick through and say, okay, well I have these exploits available and you're running these versions of software and these versions match up, so I'm going to drop these few exploits on you and maybe we'll see if we get lucky with one of them. In this case, I have nerfed this attack entirely, so I am doing a match on MS-12. That is Microsoft Knowledge Base articles from 2012. So if any of you have a computer that hasn't been updated since 2012, you should turn it off immediately because you are going to get attacked in just a moment. Once we run the attack successfully, we're going to run a script called Evil Black Hat that I'll show you in a moment. We're going to spoof a web server on HTTP port 80, And we can also do HTTPS port 443 or spoof as a proxy server on 8080. Things like that are very useful because computers will do a lot of things in the background with the browser. They'll actually start up the browser in the background and look for things like a splash page on the Wi-Fi when you connect. So you might actually just be walking by something with Wi-Fi turned on, and your device in the background is going to catch that exploit, whether you meant to do it or not. So we can do a fake DNS server, and we can run a full DHCP server. In this case, my DHCP server is going to be run on my Wi-Fi Pineapple, so I don't need to handle that myself right now. Once we get in, assuming we successfully get in, the first thing we're going to want to do is escalate our privileges. So we're going to try to get system account access, elevate ourselves to a little bit above administrator so that now I'm going to be running the computer just a little bit closer to the kernel than you are. I get a check for any countermeasures on the system, host intrusion detection prevention, antivirus, things like that. Just go ahead and -K, which is kill all those devices, all those programs running. We'll take a screenshot of the desktop. And then we will check if we're in a virtual machine, run a credentials collection, enumerate all the logged in users, grab a hash dump of the information on the system, which is all the encrypted form of the passwords. Then we're going to grab a capture from the webcam of the device. And while we upload that back to the desktop so the user can look at themselves, we will record room audio so we can hear what they think of what they look like in the mirror. And then we'll upload that back to them. And then we'll load a special module called Mimikatz. And what Mimikatz does is it scans through the RAM and it looks for where Microsoft has hidden the unencrypted form of the password for the logged in user. And we're going to dump the password for the logged in user in plain text, because that's definitely something you should store in RAM. Any questions on what we're doing? No? Anybody doubt that I'd be doing this in front of you if I didn't think it would work? No? Oh, I mean, to be fair, I'm using a Windows XP system. They don't support it anymore, except for last week when they released an emergency patch for something they swore that they weren't supporting anymore. But we'll see how that goes. Metasploit's written in a lovely language called Ruby, which is slower than all get out, so this takes just a moment to load. And while it's loading up all of its exploits, we will see if I'm lucky enough to be able to change the VGA cable over to my victim, so you can see what this looks like from your side. Hey. Alright. So this, with the lovely rainbow sticker, because I couldn't find a unicorn, is your laptop for today. So you've got your nice netbook, because those were really popular in 2012. You fire it up and you're at the coffee shop and you turn on your laptop and you find it automatically connects to a network. Awkward. Connected to my home. That's weird. But you know, I've got an internet connection, so we're no farther from fun. So we'll go ahead and we'll start up Internet Explorer and we'll see where I can get. So we fire up our Internet Explorer and oh, okay, there's a quick little loading page. That's no problem. And in the background, what's happening is Metasploit is loading 1,000 iframes for different websites. Each one of those websites, when your computer tries to load Twitter, Facebook, what have you, it's going to automatically submit the login cookie so that Facebook knows that you're a logged in user. So now that you've sent me your login cookie, I can go and use that, pass it to Facebook myself, and now I can be you on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Career Builder, Monster.com. I would never do this, of course, but you get the general idea. While the script's running in the background, you'll actually see things popping up on my desktop, in this case, because I am uploading them back to the desktop, so I don't have to switch the VGA cable. Here's a nice little screenshot of my desktop. You'll see Internet Explorer's crashed. Those of you that use Internet Explorer know that that's a completely unfamiliar feeling. This specific exploit crashes Internet Explorer. Not all of them would crash the browser. Some of them, of course, will destabilize the system a little bit when you start doing nasty things to it. So we can see a probably great picture of my awesome shirt. Yes, that's right. Here's a guy standing in front of a computer screen with a pink shirt on. So that probably is me from today, if I had to guess. I'm in the middle of talking, too. That's not a very good shot. It's a crappy webcam. And then it's going to go through and it's going to record my lovely voice where I'll explain just how great I look in the picture. This laptop has a really bad speaker system, but indeed it does record the room audio and very quietly, but it does work. And then I'm kind enough to upload the full set of logs to the device so I can read it from there, but the screen resolution on my regular laptop is a little better. So we'll jump back over to him. So we can see here it loads just 100 or so different websites to grab the cookies from to see what you have logged into, what you haven't logged into. In this case, we can see I've got a Twitter cookie. I don't know why I ever logged into Twitter from my victim machine, but apparently I did. So if any of you want to log into Twitter as whichever account I was using, you can just take that down real quick. It's probably on video, so we should be good. Going to see the device is making a request from Microsoft Mozilla 4.0, Internet Explorer 6, and then we're going to send it a Windows Media Player corruption file, a bad MIDI file in this case is what actually causes the exploit condition. Once we send that bad MIDI file, we're going to tell the victim to connect back to us, and it's going to listen very kindly because we're now in full control of that device. Once we get that, we're going to grab system. It's going to get system via technique 1 in this case, kill all the countermeasures, check out the Windows firewall, make sure everything's good. What's the Windows firewall block on the local area network? Anybody? Here, I'll give you a minute. You all got it right. It blocks absolutely nothing on the local area network because otherwise basic networking things wouldn't work. You need to get Windows file sharing, you need to get printer sharing, and things like that. They're all going to work by default because otherwise all the users would obviously be very upset. We can see it grabs a screenshot of what's going on, and then it uploads that back up to the victim machine. It runs a check VM. This appears to be a physical host. Runs a credentials collection. Here is all of the hashes for the system. You can go ahead and crack that if you're bored. Collecting tokens. Tokens are what you are supposed to store for remote machine logins. When you log into a remote file server, a printer, something like that, Windows actually transforms your username and password into what's called a token, which is something you pass to the other machine to say, I am already authenticated to you. You can tell because of this. Now I can collect all of the tokens for all of the remote machines you have logged into, and I can pass them to the next machine to say, I am you on the network. Very, very kind of them to store that stuff in RAM, so we'll just go through and grab it out. I'll enumerate any logged in users, see what's going on. In this case, we have system, local service, network service 0, which is the actual user, and administrator have logged into the system. Once we've got all that information, we're going to grab the host boot key. Syskey is used to encrypt things in the system, so we can actually go through and decrypt a whole bunch of system properties later on. We can dump the password hint. We can dump password hashes in a different method just in case the first method fails. We can use the webcam to take a quick snapshot of the user, display that back up to the user, and then we can run a capture for the audio, upload that back up to the user, load Mimikatz, run his system, grab the credentials, and here is all the currently logged in users and the one that logged in with the password used. This is a good password to log in. That often elicits some people clapping. No? That is a good password, by the way. I mean, it's a nice long password, very difficult to brute force something that's not very short. So in this case, cracking those hashes would have taken me somewhere short of forever. Grabbing it in plain text is just a tad more easy. Any questions on how funny this is? Glad to see you all have my sense of humor. Unfortunately, some people yesterday were very hard on me, and they came out and they said, you know, Rick, Microsoft doesn't support Windows XP anymore, sort of. And it's kind of an old attack. It's not really very realistic to be attacking Windows XP systems unless you're the U.S. government. And for whatever reason, they weren't particularly impressed by this whole set. So I actually went through and grabbed a little something extra. So today you get to enjoy a slightly more manual demo because it's a little harder to automate something like this. But we're going to do the exact same thing to my cell phone. So this is an Android cell phone. In this case, this is actually my wife's old cell phone. It's her old cell phone because the thing's been on for 3 minutes and it's already at 95% battery life. So if I don't hurry up, this thing's not going to work very well. This is running a custom Android OS. It's got a newer ROM on it than the carriers would allow, so it's got a nice, reasonably recent Android ice cream sandwich version on it. A nice modern browser. In this case, my wife prefers this silly browser called Maxton, and I don't know why, but we'll see just how that works out for us. So we're going to run a slightly newer attack against this. Again, this is slow just to prove that I don't actually steal credit card numbers. If it was faster, you'd know that I was a liar. Because I obviously have a much nicer machine. Just one moment. I scripted this last night, and I apparently did not account for the fact that Metasploit doesn't cleanly exit even when you tell it to cleanly exit. The handler I had set up for the previous Metasploit instance apparently is stealing my port, so it won't run. How buggy indeed.
Sorry, I was asked about Android versus XP in terms of exploits available to exploit.
Realistically speaking, Android is not awful. The general point is that no matter how good anything is, there are vulnerabilities. If there isn't a vulnerability today, there will be sometime soon. So, I mean, everybody's probably familiar with Heartbleed vulnerability that came out recently in OpenSSL, which is a Linux product, which means that it's going to affect a lot of Android applications, a lot of Android devices. Right before that came out, there was actually an exploit called GoToFail, which was a certificate validation failure for Apple devices. So, no matter what you own, at some point, in reality, there is going to be an exploit for it. The trick is to get the exploits as soon as possible and run them as soon as possible before people have that chance to upgrade and patch. Especially Apple is really bad about actually issuing any security updates at all because they don't have any security vulnerabilities, so what do you need to patch?
So if you've got a choice between Android, Apple iPhone and a Windows phone, where would you go?
I have an Android phone here, I have an Android phone here, I have a Linux computer here, and I don't see anything from Apple on this table. I can't tell you what I would personally recommend. I don't have anything from Microsoft on this table except for a Victim laptop. Again, that'll tell you my opinions if you try really hard.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for behaving yourself. So I've simply navigated to google.com, it spoofs me a nice DNS, and then jumps me into the phone. You'd be a lamb and just hold that for me for a second? That'd be great. I got to type over here.
Waiting for the electric shock now.
If only. I haven't gotten that one to work yet. So if we go through and take a quick list of the webcams, we find we've got a front and a back camera. That's interesting. So we'll.
I'm not going to get away with this.
Oh, you're really not.
In your pocket, that's right.
So we're going to take a quick snap off of one of the webcams and just, picking one at random that might be convenient. And we've got a frame, and here's a great picture of the floor, kind of sideways. It kind of looks like you were moving it around a lot. You're not a Steadicam operator, are you? You must be a computer guy. My hands aren't very steady either. We could also do something silly like webcam stream, maybe, and just kind of turn on the camera and see what's going on in the room around us. Again, keep in mind, the cell phones are kind enough to automatically, when they connect to a Wi-Fi network, look to see if there is a splash page. So this exploit is going to work just by you walking by and forgetting to turn off your Wi-Fi card. And now, when you've got your phone clipped to your pocket very casually, like a cool guy would do, you'd actually be a video camera inside of whatever target I would want to be controlling. So any of you with an Apple phone now knows that you'll connect to an insecure network even if you've only stored secured networks. Those of you with an Android phone know that I can turn on your camera. Those of you with Windows phone are already disappointed in yourselves. Any other? Did I miss anything? No. I was told yesterday that I couldn't get away with my sense of humor without the American accent, so I really appreciate that you're all following through with that. Any questions on that stuff? Is that's a lovely picture of the audience you have. Again, you're still holding it sideways, though. It's, and now it's upside down. Okay. iPhones auto-connect to rogue Wi-Fi, researchers warn. In the US, every cell phone sold by AT&T will automatically connect to AT&T Wi-Fi. I'm guessing that when you have phones sold to you by carriers over here, they'll automatically connect to that carrier's Wi-Fi network as well. If I wanted to hack a whole bunch of cell phones, what do you think I'd set for the SSID? In the US, I'd set AT&T Wi-Fi. Over here, there's BT Open Zone and all kinds of other lovely things that the phones will automatically connect to, and you can't turn it off. Love that part. iPhone Wi-Fi hotspots free to anyone with a brain. iPhones are most vulnerable among smartphones. We're seeing a theme in my slides here. I don't know. Slow Android phone patching prompts vulnerability report. Hey, unfair, equal opportunity. Everybody sucks. Mostly this is the carrier's fault. If you could get phone updates directly from Google, you could get newer updates to your phone, but no, in the US especially, the carriers have to clear every single little thing that goes onto their network, which means that while Google has Android 4.4, that phone had Android 3 available to it, so my wife hacked it, put Android 4 on it, because at least that way she has something that works. But it's still just not enough, because you can't keep up to date on patches very well on these mobile embedded, BYOD is a popular word. These kinds of devices are very hard to keep up to date. Why is this also scary? This is my original setup that I stole out of my first set of slides. As I said, I've been working AirTight for 8 years now. This is my Sharp Zaris PDA. It was a Linux-powered PDA. It needed this giant little extra battery pack. That's actually the exact same Wi-Fi card at a US quarter for size. You could run through, do all these Wi-Fi attacks with this. That's what the setup looked like in 2004. This is what the setup looked like in 2008. And then you've got devices like the PhonePad that came out in 2012 and 2013, where they actually are just a Google Nexus tablet with an external Wi-Fi card that can run all of these attacks. It's still running full Android, and it can run Metasploit, Wi-Fi, all these great attack tools. And then, as I said, just yesterday evening here, they were kind enough to announce their new product, which is running on a Nexus 5 cell phone. So you can run all these Wi-Fi attacks from a nice brand new cell phone. I'm not trying to. I'm sorry.
It's quad core, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a quad core tablet, and the phones are quad core as well, like 4.9 inch. I mean, they're really decent, brand new technology. Nexus 5, reasonably recent technology. I'm not trying to pimp Pony specifically, but the point is that this stuff's out there. All this software that you saw demoed is publicly available. It's all free. Pony Express sells these products. The Wi-Fi Pineapple is a commercial product sold by a group called Hack5. They're $99. They also sell these devices for a $200 kit with a cute little, what do we call those in the U.S., European band bag. It's a purse. They sell it with a purse and a 3-day battery pack to keep the attack going for 3 days. So what you do is you get yourself the Pwn phone, you get yourself the 3-day battery pack in the satchel, and you walk around running attacks from both of your phone, and you're connected wirelessly to your other attack platform. So now you have 3 Wi-Fi cards to attack people with instead of 1, and all while it looks like you're a jerk playing Angry Birds instead of paying attention to the meeting. So again, we've got some Wi-Fi threats that we kind of recognize, some problems maybe in Wi-Fi that aren't necessarily handled by simple things like encrypting your access points or making sure only the right clients get on, proper authentication. These are all important things. You have to authenticate your clients properly. You have to encrypt your access points properly, but that's not where the story ends. There's a lot of vulnerabilities with Wi-Fi, and as I said, I'm never going to break into a building and put a rogue access point. I'm going to sit out in my car, I'm going to maybe plug in some stuff into the cigarette lighter, I'm going to run a 6-watt amplifier, and I'm going to be the strongest signal for a couple of miles while I sit in your parking lot and collect all of your client devices. Okay? We're going to talk, as we go through today, how to classify the access points in the airspace properly, see what is a threat versus what is not a threat, and we're going to talk about how that is done to make sure that we're doing things accurately. We're going to go through all the details on this stuff. We're going to talk about fun stuff, and I absolutely hate talking about market researchers, so we're going to talk about all this stuff as we go through. If you will all excuse me for a few minutes, I'm going to have to unplug a whole bunch of gear, plug in a whole bunch of new gear, so we're going to take a short little break while I do that. Yesterday it took me 15 minutes, I hope I get better today, so we're going to say it's going to be 15 minutes. Thank you.